Today we're taking a trip into the third dimension because we are reviewing Friday the 13th Part 3 in 3D. So, let's get spooky. What the fuck? Greetings, everyone! My name is Nightshade. This is The Night Shift, a home for all things spooky, and today we're looking at Friday the 13th Part 3, released in 1982. So I've actually had the pleasure of watching this movie in the theater in 3D, but not whenever it was originally released. I'm not that old. Like, I'm old, but I'm not that old. But whenever Avatar was released and several films came out that were in 3D and there was a big 3D craze, there was actually a slew of movies that were re-released to the theaters that were originally in 3D or had been converted to 3D, and I ended up going with a few of my friends and checking it out in 3D, and you know, I had a great time. It was fun. It was the first horror movie that I had seen in 3D, and then I watched Texas Chainsaw 3D, and that was a movie. But, you know, I did have the pleasure of actually seeing this film in 3D the way it was intended, and, you know, I had a great time. And if there's ever, like, a theater nearby that is replaying this film and, you know, doing it in the 3D format, I highly recommend you check it out, especially if you're a Jason fan. Almost seems like a no-brainer. But yeah, I'm super pumped and I'm ready to get into this review. Now, I don't like doing video essays or telling you beat for beat what the story of this film is and as it goes along and how it plays out. You can watch the movie for yourself and, you know, get your own opinions on how you feel about the film. So what I do instead is I break this down into two categories, the positives and the negatives, let you know what I liked about the film and what I didn't like about the film. Then I'll tell you what my favorite scene in this film is, and I'll let you know exactly why it is my favorite scene. Then we will score this out of 10 and end the video. Got it? All right. But here on The Night Shift, we always start things off on the bright side with... You've heard it once, you've heard it twice, and now you're going to hear it for a third time. Teenagers go to camp on Crystal Lake, and Jason picks them off one by one. That's it. That's the whole plot of all of these films for the most part.
I don't have to say it. I could tell.
And this time I changed it to plot rather than story because, let's face it, not a whole lot of story in any of these films. It's all plot. But, you know, I've said it before, I'll say it again whenever it comes to Friday the 13th. You know exactly what you're going to get, and I got exactly what I was expecting when going in and rewatching this film. The Friday franchise. Good old reliable. But yeah, had to be said, the plot of this film is, it's one of the big sellers for me. So let's not waste any time and go ahead and go into our next positive, which is... The main theme song for this movie in particular is a certified banger. Every time I hear it come on, I just gotta fucking... So that was dumb, and it's probably gonna get me copyright claim. But, you know, the theme song to this is like the closest thing that we get to, you know, Jason having his own theme song, but... they kind of did away with it, and I don't know why, because, you know, that song fucking slaps. I don't know, I'm a sucker for the theme song of this film, so it had to go here on my positives list. Moving on to our next positive, we have... So this film, along with, like, Part 4 and Part 6, have, like, the best cast of characters, at least in my opinion. And you know what? Sure, they're all written as cannon fodder, and that's fine. That's what this whole film is just a bunch of cannon fodder and like one decent final girl. That's all these movies are. And you know, the cannon fodder in this film, you know, has a little bit more personality than most. Like all these characters are expendable, sure, but you know, they're fun. They're a fun cast of characters, and I enjoy them. You know, of course, you've got to shout out Shelley. I mean, he is one of the funnier characters in this film. And if it wasn't for him, Jason would have never gotten his mask. And speaking of Jason, let's move on to our next positive, which is... Jason finally dons his iconic hockey mask for the very first time in this film, and I gotta say, he looks fucking awesome. You know, and I remember the first time watching this film as a little kid and, you know, seeing Jason get his hockey mask for the first time, and I was just like, oh, this is that movie. Mom! And you know, she already knew, but I was excited because, you know, this is the first time that I saw Jason getting his mask for the very first time, and it was really exciting. Little third grade Nightshade was so pumped about this movie. But you know, the olive green shirt, the bald deformed head, the gray pants, and the hockey mask all come together in this absolute juggernaut of an icon. And it all started here in this film, so I mean, it's got to get props on that regard. I also very much enjoy like the makeup underneath the hockey mask whenever we see him unmasked, and he's got that like almost like Elephant Man-ish kind of face. I really like the makeup design. It feels to me a little bit more realistic than previous iterations that they were going to add in this movie. I think it gives like it feels like a real deformity rather than, you know, the monster makeup that they were kind of going for in earlier designs. I very much enjoy the end result that we got because it feels a little bit more real, at least to me. This is also probably like the most chill Jason that we will ever see on screen. Like, he doesn't really move with like purpose or haste at all. He's just kind of like, all right, let me mosey on over here and see if there's any other kids to kill. But even though he is a chill Jason, he doesn't really skimp on the brutality in this film. It's going to lead us into our next positive, which is... enjoy a majority of the kills in this, especially because they all have some sort of like 3D element added to them. I mean, this is a 3D film, so obviously that's going to be a thing. And like I said, I got to see this movie in the theaters in 3D, and you know, it makes the kills that much better. Now these for sure aren't the best kills in the franchise. There's a couple more of those in future films and future reviews. We'll get to it when we get to it. But you know, the kills are better than, you know, some of the other severely neutered kills that we're going to talk about later in the franchise. And you know, I've said it before, I'll say it again, the kills are what makes this franchise franchise. So, you know, obviously the kills have got to go on my positives list. Just like that, we are out of positives, which means we move on to the not so bright side of things with... So I definitely got to say that the filming in 3D definitely holds this film back a significant amount. Like, a lot of this filming all circulated around the 3D element. So if an actor wasn't on their best performance, but they did get the 3D shot, that was the shot that they were going to go with. And unfortunately, it shows.
To do it exactly the way you were directed, or the 3D effect wouldn't turn out. So it was very precise.
Oftentimes, we would do additional takes just because there were technical issues. So as an actor, that was a little frustrating.
You weren't really worried so much about your acting skills as much as could you get that yo-yo to go right in the lens. That was more important than anything else.
And not to mention, you know, a lot of us don't really get to see this film in 3D. I don't own a 3D television, and it was just by luck that I got to see it in theaters in 3D because it was only there for like a weekend or something like that. So, you know, I had to like go watch it when I did in 3D. But aside from that, I've never seen this movie outside of 3D. So the fact that, you know, most of us don't have 3D televisions or have seen this in 3D, a lot of the 3D gimmick just doesn't work on home video. And you know, it sucks, but that's the fact of the matter. Like, all the work and effort that they put into was mainly based for theaters and doesn't really translate well on home TV screens. Like, it just looks kind of corny, and it doesn't come off well. And if you watch any of the behind the scenes stuff, you know, they say that the star of the show was the 3D camera and everything else came secondary. And, you know, in watching this movie, it definitely shows. And that's really unfortunate. So it's a really cool gimmick whenever you're in the theater and have the appropriate gear and the appropriate format to watch it. But, you know, if this pops up on like HBO and you watch it, it just gets really corny. Now, moving right along into my final negative, we have... So, you know, the Pamela Voorhees corpse jump scare doesn't really work for me. It's pretty much just a reskinned version of the first film's jump scare, and that, I don't know, feels kind of lazy. Like, I understand doing a jump scare ending. That's perfectly fine. I have no problems with that. But whenever it's exactly the same as a previous jump scare, you end up losing the element of surprise. And the whole point of a jump scare is to have the element of surprise. It's a jump scare, like it's required. But if you can see it coming from a mile away, it just doesn't work. And this one for me just doesn't work. You know, the first one worked. The second one worked because it was different. It was by a window, and I wish they would have gone with, like, if you have to have a jump scare ending, I wish they would have gone with something a little bit less predictable. They could have definitely had like a fake out ending where Chris is being put into the back of an ambulance, and you know, you think she's safe because, I mean, she's in an ambulance, and then Jason busting through the doors of the ambulance and having that work as a jump scare, and then her coming to like, oh, that was just a dream. You know, something like that, something different than, you know, the boat jump scare. It didn't work for me here. And that's gonna do it for my negatives list. So now we move on to the next chapter of the video, which is so my favorite scene in this film by far, and it's not for any good reason, and my favorite scene is the head pop eyeball kill. It's so hilariously dumb. Like, I remember being a kid and watching that scene and being like, holy shit, that was so fucking fake. Like, that's clearly a prosthetic head, and you can see the string that the eyeball is attached to. And yeah, it's so bad. It's so bad that it's good. It's like so deliciously bad. One more time for me. That's a kill that stuck with me for a very long time just because of what it is. So let's go ahead and score the film. For Friday the 13th Part 3, I'm definitely going to give this a solid 6 out of 10. You know, the things that land for me really do stick the landing, and I enjoy it. I enjoy a lot about this film, but, you know, there's a lot of elements that I don't like, and especially if you lose the atmosphere for me, that's a big no-go, at least for me personally. But I'm curious to know, what do you think about Friday the 13th in 3D? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you indifferent about it? Sound off in the comments below. So that's just gonna about do it for me. If you like the video, let me know by leaving me a like. Comment down below what you want to see on the channel next. I will do my best to accommodate, I really will. And until next time, my name is Nightshade. This has been The Night Shift, and I will see you in the next video. Stay spooky, my friends.